This News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested, and I hate to say this, and I'm hesitant to say this, if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we are the Valley's law firm. And why am I hesitant to say if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us? Because we would likely be fighting against this person's whole office. She is the Fresno County District Attorney since 1995. She is a friend of mine that I've known for a long time and have fought against, right, and worked together with to try to reach a good resolution. She is Lisa Smittcamp. Welcome, Lisa.
Well, thank you for having me, and we're happy to keep you in business.
Thank you. Well, you are keeping us in business. I got to say, although it's got to be hard to keep us in business now with the California laws the way they are.
Yeah, it's not easy these days. It seems that decriminalization of so many types of crimes is the new thing that seems to be popular, but we are still very, very, very busy.
Yeah. I tell you, we're going to get into the decriminalization. See, we can't even say the word because it affects us so much.
It doesn't come out sometimes.
I know. I am upset by it, but let me talk real quickly about a couple cases that are in the news lately, or a couple of issues that are in the news lately, and I think KMJ listeners would like to hear about it. Nathan Larson, he was a sexual offender, or a alleged sexual offender that was basically soliciting children, 12-year-old children from all around the world from his home in Virginia. He was a politician at one point, or was running for elections, and you had the case for a brief period of time. You've now passed it off to the feds, so you officially have dismissed the case, correct?
That's correct. We did. We have a lot of relationships in all different kinds of areas of the law with the our federal partners over at the U.S. Attorney's Office and the federal law enforcement agencies. So sometimes what we do is we sit down and we look at the case, and instead of fighting over it to see who's going to take it, we just come to mutual agreements over who could best prosecute the case for what it's worth. And in this case, it was determined that the federal charges would be more appropriate to the behavior of what he did, and because it really meets a lot of standards for the federal jurisdiction. The fact that he came across the country, he crossed state lines, he used airlines to try to transport the child back to his place of residence.
Yeah.
It was more well suited in the federal courts, and so we dismissed without prejudice, which means if something does go awry in the federal court, that we can refile the charges at a later date.
You know, I've done state cases, which your district attorney's office handles, and I've also done federal cases for about 30 years now. And that is one of the significant things about the federal cases is you could just tell by dealing with them that the resources, the manpower, all that they have available to them is just so much greater than a local state agency like this. Is that part of the plan? Is basically, not only are they crossing state lines, which make them federal cases, but also they just have resources that we don't have here.
Yeah, the federal law enforcement agencies have national and international abilities. They have equipment, they have resources that are so far beyond sometimes what we have here locally. But we have found that the union of both, there's some cases where you really do need more boots on the ground, and you do need more local type law enforcement. And so we do a lot of work with the Fresno Police Department in conjunction with the federal agencies, and also with the Sheriff's Department. We all work together really well. We really have a special relationship here in Fresno. In fact, a few years back, Chief Dyer, when Jerry Dyer was still the police chief, Jerry and one of the federal prosecutors, Kim Sanchez, and a lady from the FBI and I were asked to go up to Tahoe to speak to a group of United States attorneys, because Fresno was really seen as the model for the nation in how federal, state, and local agencies work together through just investigations and sharing intelligence and wiretaps and different investigative methods that we use in order, and we really peacefully and collaboratively decide where the cases go, and we support each other. And that doesn't happen in all jurisdictions.
I'm assuming part of it is, whenever you get a federal job like that, a lot of people may move to other cities, et cetera. But you actually have a lot of the former deputies from Fresno County that are in the federal arena here at the U.S. Attorney's Office now, right?
We do. We have a few people that have moved over to the federal prosecutor's office, but I think it's more so that there's just sort of a very common thing that happens between state and federal agencies, where the state elected prosecutors, quite honestly, don't want to divert some of their cases over, because when they have really good cases, they want to keep those cases in their office for the politics of it and for the publicity of it. And I don't play those games. And so, the federal people are hired and appointed, and they really kind of keep a low profile. They do not do a lot of grandstanding. They don't do a lot of politicking. They don't do very many press conferences, because everything that they do has to be approved not only through Sacramento, but Washington, D.C.
Right.
So when you have an elected person who wants to take all the credit all the time, that's when the conflicts are born, and they're created, and they just grow and grow. So we don't do that in Fresno.
Let me ask you, you wrote on another topic. I don't want to stick on this guy's case for very long, just because you need to be rid of it too. It's hard thinking about these type of things. Gascon, he's the LA County District Attorney's Office, and he has recently basically claimed that the District Attorneys Association of California has too many white people on it, and he has basically made it his job to decriminalize all of LA County District Attorney's Office. You have basically sent out a letter to him. You penned a letter indicating that his methodology and his directives are extreme, and they're already wreaking havoc on crime victims. This letter that you sent to him, number one, what was the purpose, and did you have any thoughts that it's going to be effective in trying to convince or change this guy's mind? Okay,
so if we were in court, I would object that your question is compound, because I think that's about 8 questions, but we're not, and there's no judge here to tell me that I'm right, and you have to break your questions down. I've been called objectionable. So yes, so I'm going to start with the first comment that you made, okay. And that is that he says that CDAA, which is the Association of the Elected District Attorneys and the 3,000 prosecutors that work in this state. The primary focus of CDA is to train prosecutors. And I think it's comical, really, at this point, that George Gascon is saying that CDAA is too white, when he is the person who lied, cheated, and bamboozled the voters of Los Angeles County to vote for him, unseating the African-American Democrat female district attorney that was set to be the president of CDAA.
Oh, I didn't know that part, that end part. Oh, wow.
Yes. So I think that's really hypocritical and actually funny, because he's just such a grandstander. So I did write a letter indicating that we would not be sharing jurisdiction or relinquishing jurisdiction to him for any cases anymore.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
So sometimes in cases of child sexual abuse or human trafficking, potentially even domestic violence or gang crimes, there can be dual jurisdiction in 2 counties, and sometimes one county will relinquish jurisdiction to another county. If there's a continuing course of conduct, or there are two different types of crimes committed by the same person, one county can relinquish under certain circumstances. And we actually had a sexual assault case where the perpetrator had committed crimes in different counties, and the law allowed for one county to sort of be the lead, if you will. Right. Kind of like what happened in the Golden State Killer case. And so we had relinquished jurisdiction to Los Angeles County, and they were prosecuting the case. And thankfully for us, the case went away. Sadly, the defendant committed suicide. And so we didn't have any open cases when he took over. But because it had been the practice, and really it was the practice of all DAs, we just would meet and confer and decide who should take the case. I sent him a letter telling him that Fresno County would not be sharing jurisdiction anymore. I'm sure he doesn't care. I don't think he cares what anybody thinks.
Right.
But we sent him that just so that he knew, and so that I could share a few other thoughts also.
We're going to be right back. This is Lisa Smittcamp. She's the District Attorney of Fresno, California. I want to ask a few more questions about LA County's Gascon. We'll be right back right after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Like I tell you, folks, call us if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, 559-498-8000. Or if you have been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, motorcycle accident, anything like that, give us a call. We've been doing this for 30 years, and we could help you out. We surely can. We've had cases anywhere from $10,000 on up to $10.5 million, one of the largest in Fresno County's history. And so, again, it's the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm sponsoring today's show, and give us a call, 559-498-8000. Again, we are on with Lisa Smittcamp. She's the Fresno County District Attorney. We were talking about George Gascon, the LA District Attorney, in your letter that you sent to him. And we, in between the segments, you had said something that people don't understand the significance of it. You had quoted in your letter that crime has no boundaries, and these special directives that George Gascon is basically directing his people to dismiss case, not file enhancements, will certainly impact areas outside of Los Angeles County. All right, elaborate on that.
Well, I think what's important for people in Fresno to realize is that the LADA is relevant to us because what he's doing down there is basically letting very serious criminals, gang members, murderers, child molesters, all kinds of criminals, people that commit very serious crimes, he's letting them off pretty much scot-free. You know, he has all these policies: no bail, don't include gun enhancements, gang enhancements, strike priors, right? So these are people who have spent their lives being criminals. And when the opportunity arises to prosecute them and to make them accountable, not only for the crime they commit today, but some of the crimes that they have committed in the past, which is law that has been passed by the voters of the state of California, right, not the people just in Los Angeles County. He's choosing not to impose those laws. And, you know, everybody has an opinion about the death penalty. This isn't about the death penalty. No. This isn't about race. This is not about religion. This is not about unfairness or inequity. This is about an anarchist who is a public defender disguising himself as a district attorney. He is a public defender that has infiltrated the district attorney's office and done it in a deceptive way that he has deceived the voters. And the reason it's relevant to people in Fresno is because those gang members that live and breed evil and do horrible things in Los Angeles County don't just restrict themselves to Los Angeles County. They traffic drugs and women and guns all through the state and, quite honestly, all through the nation. You know, it's funny that you said that he's an anarchist, because we had a discussion about it on one of the morning shows a few weeks ago. And I had asked you the same question: is this anarchy? One of the questions I had was, as public defenders or as defense attorneys, there are people out there that they call themselves true believers. They believe in justice no matter what. And I understand that. But this transcends that. This is not a person who says a person has constitutional rights and I'm going to give them everything they're due and no matter what, and they're going to do whatever it is. And I do that myself because as a defense attorney, these are anarchists. They are people that are looking for the degradation of society, it appears. Is that how you see it? I scratch my head every day and I wonder, what is the means to the end? And in fact, in my letter to George Gascon, I said, please call me. Here's my name, my number, my email. Call me and please explain to me, what is your goal? How does a society, how does a community, how does a city, a state, a county, how do you have any productive movement toward education and productivity and people coming here for the American dream, realizing it and educating themselves and providing a beautiful home for their family and making money, when you're disallowing their ability to live in a clean, drug-free environment where people are not stealing from them, raping their children, abusing their children, murdering, shooting. I mean, it's the wild, wild west down there. Okay, so devil's advocate, this is what he says. He goes, because we want transformative change, which means an end to mass incarcerations, the prison industrial complex, and a system that unjustly criminalizes, targets, and harshly penalizes Black people, Indigenous people, and other people of color. So what's your response to something like that? Okay, so here's the thing. Mass incarceration is not being used in the correct term. When you're talking about mass incarceration, you're talking about incarcerating everybody for every crime that they have, that everyone that commits a crime, no matter how serious it is, they get incarcerated. Or people that get incarcerated for too long, right? So George Gascon thinks it's appropriate if somebody kills someone that 7 years is enough. Right. And I think that the voters of the state have said, no, that's not enough. That's why the numerous times that the death penalty has been voted on, the voters have kept to keep the death penalty, because the death penalty isn't used in every murder. It's used in only very specific instances. And the law provides the guidelines for which it can be imposed. Same thing with life without. There has to be certain things met. And the bottom line at the end of the day is there are some people who just don't deserve to walk in the same streets, shop in the same malls, and breathe the same air as everyone else after they have committed numerous crimes over their lifetime.
Well, isn't also the mistake the fact that we are increasingly incarcerating people, but it is proportional to the amount of population that increases in California throughout the years. So what I'm saying is they have stopped building prisons. They don't want to build more prisons. They say prisons are overcrowded. The legislature stops funding for building of prisons and instead start voting to lower the overall penalties to release people on the streets to relieve this burden of quote unquote over population in the prisons.
Okay, but Mark, here's the thing. All right. When you have people, and this is what angers me so much about all these criminal justice reform arguments, is they put themselves off to be these heroes for people who are misunderstood and people who are disadvantaged and people who just have never had a fighting chance. And you know it as well as I do, is that in the state of California today, if you go to prison, chances are you have failed probation or parole numerous times, not once or twice. Or if it's your first time out of the chute, you have committed a crime like rape or child molestation. There are child molesters that don't go to prison the first time out of the gate. That's one of the reasons I asked off the sexual assault team about 15 years ago, because I thought every child molester should go to prison. And I was almost having problems, personal problems doing the work because I was getting so frustrated because judges weren't sending people. And I asked my chief to move me to a different assignment because child molesters don't go to prison always from the jump. And people who rape and murder, those are the people that go to prison the first time that haven't been what we might call career criminals. But here's the thing that the criminal justice reformers don't tell people, right? So we've lowered the population in the prison, which means you have to commit certain crimes in order to actually go to state prison today. So when you don't commit a qualifying crime for prison, you do time in the local jail. Okay. Now you probably have had clients that are doing 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 years in the local jail. Have you ever been inside the local jail, Mark? Many times.
It's not equipped for that. Yeah.
It's not equipped for that. Jails are temporary holding cells for people either awaiting trial or people who are serving less than a year. They don't have yards. They don't have parks. They don't have outside services. They don't have inside places for people. Prisons are different than jails. So all these reformers who are saying, empty the prisons, there is a large population of those inmates who they're fighting for their rights who are now stuck in local jails for 6 and 8 and 10 years.
Yeah, passing the buck to the local counties.
Not only passing the buck and passing the responsibilities. Right. So then for the people who are pending cases, right? And people, they say, there's so many innocent people in the jail. Well, everyone forgets that in order to be incarcerated, there has to be probable cause that you committed a crime to even get arrested. And then there's an opportunity for bail. There's an opportunity for OR. There's an opportunity in arraignment to say why you should get out.
Reviewed by a judge,
argued by both sides. And look, you knew me long before I was the elected DA. As a prosecutor, I have always upheld not only the people's right to be represented, but also the defendant's right. If I thought there was a bad stop or no probable cause, I'd be happy to dismiss those cases.
Right.
And we do that in our filing process. It is important for the defendant to always be represented.
I got you on a roll. I got to go to a break.
I know. I get going. I can't stop.
We'll be right back with Lisa Smittcamp, the District Attorney of Fresno County, right after this. This is KMJ. It's News Talk 580, 105.9 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm going to quickly get into this segment. This show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, serving the Central Valley since 1995. Again, remember, folks, if you've been injured in an accident or arrested or cited for an offense, call us at 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we are the Valley's law firm. I want to get quickly back to Lisa Smittcamp because she did have a point that we were discussing. Basically, we're talking about George Gascon and his basically decriminalization of his policies over there in Los Angeles County and your letter to him. The bottom line, though, for it is what, Lisa?
Well, the bottom line is the criminal justice reform is always good. It's always a good conversation to have. But what George Gascon is doing is not criminal justice reform. What we do every day is criminal justice reform. Different programmings, veterans court, drug courts, mental health courts. That's criminal justice reform. Talking about, different ways to handle juveniles, different rehabilitative processes. Right. But what George Gascon's version of criminal justice reform is simply just it's a wind that he's blowing to just get elected because he thinks that's what people want to hear. But what he's doing is he's purporting to help people that he's actually hurting. Because when you do not have any accountability in a society and you have somebody who is maybe not raised in the best home or doesn't have the best guidance or doesn't have the benefit of good education, and they start to get in trouble over and over and over again, and you're not providing them any schooling, any technical education, any type of job training, what are they going to do? Right. And this is what he's fostering, is this whole environment of no responsibility, no accountability. And I don't care where you come from. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're rich or poor, black or white. It doesn't matter. You're brown or any other color. You need structure. You need guidelines. You need all of it. You need accountability. We all need it as human beings. We all can stray. Yeah. And this is just creating more havoc for these people.
The one part that I thought too is, so he's stating that the way the criminal justice system is run penalizes black people, indigenous people, and people of color. But the problem is the more crime that's out there on the street, the more those people are being hurt because much of that crime is being committed in their own neighborhoods.
Yes. So true. Because on the opposite side of most crime, in like you're talking about, is oftentimes a victim of the same color. You can look up the FBI stats. Most white people are killed by white people. Yeah. Most black people are killed by black people, and most Hispanic people are killed by Hispanic people. The numbers are high, like 70-80%.
The feds a long time ago went through Mendota and cleaned out a lot of the drug lords that were there that had come over from Mexico, and I have a lot of Spanish-speaking individuals come in, especially young kids that will come in with their parents. And I looked at one of the parents one day and I said, "It's nice. You like that, right?" And he goes, "Absolutely." He goes, "My son can't walk down the street and go to school. We have to escort him everywhere." Yeah, it's sad. Okay, listen, I want to get off this stuff because you called me up when we were talking about doing this, and we had been texting each other a little bit because you said, well, what should we talk about? What kind of topics are there going to be? And I said, let's just talk about you. And we've done nothing but that so far. So you were talking about Veterans Court. Your dad was a veteran, right?
Yes, he was. My dad was a World War II veteran. Yes, he was.
What did he do? Do you know?
He was in the Navy. He really didn't talk about it much. And, I did a trial back in 2013 where I prosecuted a Marine for 3 counts of attempted murder. And I learned a lot about the military, and I learned a lot about PTSD. And I went home and told my dad was already deceased at the time, but I went home and I told my mom, I said, I think Dad had PTSD.
Oh, really?
Because he never spoke about the war.
Oh, so you think he was in battle and everything?
Yes.
By the way, let's mention that the case that you're mentioning, I don't think that guy had PTSD. But
no, he had fake PTSD.
Yeah, I think he had fake PTSD.
I always say he had 4 flavors of PTSD because he was not a grunt. He was not a true combat veteran. He was somebody that was there in combat, but he did not have that kind of a job.
Do you think your dad was on ship, though, yourself?
Yes, he was.
And in battle?
Yes. I do know that. That's all I know.
Have you looked up the history of it at all?
I really haven't. I probably should, but it was something that was very private for him. Yeah. And he just, he was very proud to be a veteran, but it was not something he was comfortable talking about.
As the head DA of Fresno County, you actually personally sit in the Veterans Court as a line deputy handling the cases.
I do.
Is it because of that?
Yes. Well, it's because it was the right thing to do, and we didn't have staffing for that. We didn't have a body. We didn't have a lawyer to put in there. So I volunteered. Judge Hillary Chittick has been instrumental in getting the court going, and they really were just lacking a DA. And I think the prior DA maybe was trying to, just say, hey, we need more people, we need more bodies, which we did. But I just made the decision to take the court myself, and it's just such an honor and a privilege to work with the veterans.
I hesitate to say it on the air, but we offer discounts to military people because my dad was a Marine.
Right, I do know that. Yeah.
Okay, Mom did what?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was a bookkeeper at home, and then when I was in college, she actually started working outside the home, and I would tease her when I would come home that I was a latchkey kid. But my mom was a bookkeeper. Yeah, one of the smartest people I've ever known in my life, and taught me the art of tough.
Well, and that's the question that I had, because you are the head district attorney. You've always been a tough district attorney. You've always been very organized and very well prepared. I used to go against you many times back when you were a line deputy, and I couldn't figure out, because you've also told me that you were the student body president of every school that you ever attended, and I couldn't figure out if that was a mom thing or a dad thing for you.
I don't know. I think I was just bossy, and I really wasn't good at anything else except talking. And so when you asked me something interesting about myself, I thought, well, I'm not very interesting. All I really do is work and hang out with my kids and my family. But and I have really great friends too. But I was student body president of Gibson Elementary, Tenaya Middle School, and San Joaquin Memorial High School. Yeah. and I say I don't like politics.
But yeah, exactly. You started off at a very young age, but also you were also the student body or the president of your sorority?
I was not student body president. I was a Sigma Kappa at USC. So I was, and I look back on it now, and I can't believe I was actually in a sorority now that I'm 51 years old. But it was a great experience, and I was sort of the accidental president, because my roommate was running, and as we were walking into the Monday night meeting where she was supposed to be elected, one of the advisors told her she didn't have a high enough GPA.
Oh, wow.
And so there was somebody else running that maybe everybody didn't think would be the best president, and so I was nominated at the last minute and became the president. So,
all right, I know those are a little more trivial than being a DA, but do you think that helped you? Because eventually you had to run for an election, and these elections, especially for DA, can be very, very contentious. And we've handled a lot of elections, my brothers and I, for judges, et cetera. And I remember telling each one of the candidates, sitting them down and saying, "Are you ready for this?" And they all go, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm ready." I go, No. Are you ready for this? You are going to lose friends. You're going to have friends that you never thought you had.
Yeah.
Were you ready for it when you went for DA? It's a whole different thing.
Absolutely not. I had no idea what I was getting into, because my life had been, fairly boring. I didn't really have any skeletons in my closet. I didn't have anything to hide. I mean, I certainly wasn't a perfect child, but I was pretty much of a rule follower my whole life. And I think in politics, sometimes it's not even really about the candidate. Maybe it's about the candidate's team. But if they don't have stuff, sometimes they make it up.
Right.
And with social media now too, there's a lot of opportunity for people who don't know anything to say everything. And campaigns are brutal, and you would think like, oh, it's just the DA, it's a local race, it's no big deal. But sometimes the smaller the race, the more petty and difficult they get.
Yeah, I'll tell you, every one of them, each one of the candidates, male or female, that we've helped out, but halfway through, there'll be a moment where they're almost in tears.
Yeah.
And I said, I warned you, it's a dirty, dirty thing.
Yeah, I was in my mid-40s when I ran for DA, and I really thought I was a pretty mature person, and I had grown as a human being, and I'd been a prosecutor for, almost 20 years, and I had seen a lot and done a lot. And I'll tell you, I really grew as a human being. I learned every day to wake up, do the best that I could, do the right thing. And every night when I put my head on the pillow, I just said, today I did the right thing, and I hope that people will appreciate it. And if everyone doesn't agree with me, it's okay. And I will march on and see if the voters want me, then they'll vote for me. And if they don't, then I'll move on to something else.
Well, I think they're going to continue to vote for you. We got another segment to come up, but we're going to talk some more with Lisa Smittcamp. She's the Fresno County District Attorney. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. As always, today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we are the Valley's law firm. All right, we're getting personal with Lisa Smittcamp, who's the district attorney of Fresno. We said we weren't going to talk politics. I just wanted to talk all about you, and I hate talking about the politics. So we were in the midst of your election. At some point, Lisa, you switched from Democrat to Republican. And I know that a lot of people say, oh, politicians, they'll switch like that. I can't believe they did that. What was your reasoning for doing that?
Well, I was raised by Democrats. My mom is still a card-carrying Democrat, and I happened to go into law enforcement, and I was working in the Madera DA's office, actually. Right. And at one point early in my career, I actually thought I might want to be a judge, and which is not the case now. Now I know actually what they do.
You can talk to my two family members.
Yes,
yeah,
I think I'm a better advocate than I am judge. So I think I'm well suited for my position. And I married a Republican who came from a pretty strong Republican family, and I used to get teased a little bit in the family, and it really wasn't all that important to me. But my husband said, "Hey, would you ever consider being a Republican? My whole family's Republican." And I said, "Yeah, I think the Republicans are fine." And this is back in the late '90s, before both parties sort of went mad.
Right.
And so I made my husband a deal that if we could raise the kids Catholic, which I am Catholic, I would convert to Republicanism if we could raise the kids with Catholicism. And so it was sort of a joke. Yeah. But I did, when I re-registered after I got married, when I changed my address, I did change from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, and that was back in 2000. Right. So it had really nothing to do with being a politician. I never dreamed in a million years I would run for office.
The reason why I wanted to ask you is not because of the politics of it all, but because is there something that you discover that we don't know? I've been a Republican my whole life. I went to Nixon's inauguration as a little kid in Washington, D.C. It was freezing cold, by the way, that day. Is there something that is a mindset thing that you notice, and you may have been able to see things from a different perspective just because of tribalism? You changed from one party name to the next party name.
I don't know that I could honestly say yes or no. My dad was the business manager of the Plumbers and Steamfitters Union. So not only was I raised by two Democrats, but I was a union baby, if you will. And so my dad ran for election as the business manager. And my parents were very much about, sticking up for the underdog and staying humble and working hard and giving other people a chance. But my mom and I actually have a lot of political battles now, because I feel like the type of Democrats that my parents were in the 60s and the 70s and even in the 80s are sort of aligned with the Republicans of today.
Right.
And I think that the party has completely switched. A lot of my friends, my son's godfather is a Democrat. My mother, who I love more than anything, is a Democrat. I have my very best friend who's a retired Fresno PD officer, retired DA investigator who's 75 years old, Tom Flanagan, is a Democrat. And he's like a dad to me,
Right.
And we spar a little bit about politics here and there, but I don't not have friends who are Democrats, because I think that the people who I don't care for their politics are so far left of the good Democrats and the reasonable Democrats, the same way that I don't agree with what's on the extreme right. So I say, it's not because it's politically correct, just because it's me. I'm purple. I really am a moderate person. I could be a conservative Democrat, and I could be a lenient liberal Republican. I could go any way. I really probably should be an independent.
Right.
And I know that a couple of my colleagues are going that way, who are in, elected DA positions, because they don't want to align with one party over the other. Because today, if you're a Republican, there is this image that you don't respect Democrats, and that's not me. And if you're a Democrat, then you have to hate on Republicans, and that's not me. me either, because I think, as you know, the DA is an elected position, and yes, it's political, but if anybody has to be nonpartisan, it has to be the district attorney. We have to look at facts and law, and that's it.
Do you think district attorney is the final step in your political career? Or do you think
1,000%.
Really? You're that sure of that?
Yes. I have no desire to have any other office except this. I'm a prosecutor. I'm not a politician. And that's what my sign says. And it feels cheesy to say that, but it's the truth. I really have no aspirations.
Did you not like the political side of it?
I don't like any of it. Right. I mean, people, you know, I've had a couple of Facebook temper tantrums maybe or rants, and people say, oh, who is this gal from Fresno? She should run for governor. And even some of my friends, and I'm thinking to myself, I am not running for I don't want to go up there and clean up any mess. And I look at some of our, you know, we have really good people from the Valley who are both in the Assembly and the Senate. And I would not want to be swimming up that stream as a Republican. I just wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, but even I said it when we were texting earlier in the week because you can't think of anybody that would be more well suited, not only your education, your experience, et cetera, but I think the biggest thing we need is criminal justice to make a turnaround again, right? Is it ever going to happen?
You know, I think eventually it will. I think the pendulum has to come back to the middle. And sadly, you know, I've met and conferred with a lot of people who've been around this business for a lot longer than I have, and people who I respect and admire very much. And everybody says the same thing. Oh, it'll come back, and it'll be some case, it'll be some killing, it'll be some, you know, amount of intolerance that people will finally get to where they are not going to have, they're going to get tired of the homeless in the street. They're going to get tired of their cars getting broken into. They're going to get tired of getting carjacked. And then it'll turn around, you know, for the best. And I don't know when that's going to happen. Yeah. But what I do know is that I want to continue to try to be a good steward of fair justice in Fresno. And that means abiding by, you know, learning to keep progressing and working with kids to keep them out of the criminal justice system. Right. And when I have the opportunity to speak to kids, I don't care where they come from, which side of town, I say, I do not want you. I do not want you in the system. I want you to be UPS drivers and artists and doctors and business people and tech people and coders. Go be educated, no matter where you come from, because not all kids hear that, Mark. Yeah. Not all kids hear that. There are certain parts of society that they encourage bad behavior from their kids. They give their kids drugs. It's terrible. Well,
and I think it's even the California legislature and just the media or whatever it may be is just encouraging the wrong culture. Speaking about a different culture, you had a momentous occasion to spend how long in Africa back in 2000, I think it was, you said?
It was 2002, yeah. I had the opportunity to go on safari with my uncle and my 3 cousins.
And you said it was life-changing. Why?
It was life-altering. I think just when you're over there, you see the joy of people, you know, when you have the opportunity we were in some big cities, but we were also out in the bush and out in safari, and you see people who live in dung huts. You know, they make their homes from elephant dung. Right. And they literally live off the land. They have one person that walks 5 miles for the water for the tribe for the day. And you get to see how people live. And when you're there, you know, we had restrictions. We could only carry a 30-pound backpack. And you know, you fly from place to place on airplanes that you don't even know are going to get off the ground. And, you know, we were out one night on a night safari, and the axle of the vehicle we were in broke. And our guide got out and literally climbed up a tree and pulled off some palm and basically weaved this axle back together, and we limped back to the camp. And I think you just realize like how blessed you are, you know, to have hot water every day, and how blessed you are to have a roof over your head. And the kids in Africa, you know, when they sit in school, sometimes they have to put plastic under their feet because they don't have shoes, and the bugs come up from the dirt and they burrow in their feet. Oh my the jiggers. Gosh. And that's what they're called, the little bugs, jiggers. Yeah. And you know, you see things like this, and then you see people who live in these types of conditions, but they're joyful. Yeah. And they praise God, and they're happy to be around people, and they're so, you know, they're so interested to see white people, and they were interested to see our cameras, and we were taking pictures of them, and it was just beautiful children, beautiful people. Well, I'll tell you, speaking about beautiful people, we've been on with Lisa Smittcamp, the district attorney of Fresno. You've done a beautiful job all these years, and I appreciate it. I'm going to steal Rachel. We're going to keep Rachel, my secretary. I know you want her, but she's staying with me. She's coming my way as soon as she passes the bar. I'm sorry. She's ours. Hey, folks, listen, watch us every Saturday on the Marc Kapetan Show. Thanks for being with us this week. This is KMJ.